Hey guys, how we doing? Today we're going to be taking a look at last Epoch and the newest class that they're going to be revealing before the game comes out into 1.0. So let me just bring this up here. So all the information I'm going to be sharing with you today comes exclusively from Icy Veins. If you want to check out anything more in depth, icyveins.com has all the information here from Warlock Week for last Epoch. This is a action RPG that's coming out in version 1.0 on Steam, February 21st. And what we're looking at today is the latest prestige class for the Acolyte. Yeah, final mastery of the Acolyte class. So who is the Warlock? A practitioner of forbidden arts, she tears into the essence of her foes, twisting and corrupting their bodies and minds with curses most vile. Through her dark magics, she can devour the very souls of those who would dare stand in her way. And then we have some of the skill breakdowns here, which I've got more information on. We'll check as we go through. The first thing we're going to look at is the Warlock curses, which are down here by me. We have Anguish, Penance, Decrepify, Acid Skin, and if I duck down for a second, Torment. So those are the core feature of the Warlock. And if we pop over here, we have the breakdown for what those curses actually do. So Anguish, so basically these are debuffs. They last a set amount of time, and then they have some debilitating effect and or damage onto who you're casting on. So Anguish, you have a curse skill that lasts 10 seconds, reduces enemy damage over time dealt, and deals damage to all enemies afflicted whenever you kill an enemy that's marked. Penance lasts 15 seconds, causes affected targets to take 20 fire damage when they hit another target. Decrepify deals 200 physical damage over 10 seconds, so it's a dot skill, with added damage applying at 100% effectiveness per second, and causes the target to take more damage from damage over time based on your missing health. Which is interesting. Sounds kind of like a really tanky skill. Acid Skin, the second to last one, deals 80 poison damage over 5 seconds with added damage applying at 80% effectiveness per second and adds a 20% chance to be critically hit. And then the last one is Torment, which deals 120 necrotic damage over 3 seconds with added damage applying at 200% effectiveness per second and reducing movement speed by 12%, multiplicative with other modifiers, but does not stack. So most of these have the keywords do not stack. Anguish, Penance, and Torment all say they don't stack. Decrepify and Acid Skin do not. The other thing that differentiates these skills is the type of damage they do, which is going to synergize with your passive skills, depending on what you're kind of building your character to do. So Anguish is necrotic, Penance is fire, Decrepify is physical, Acid Skin is poison, and Torment is also necrotic damage. So Anguish and Torment both do necrotic. Torment to me sounds the most appealing. I like the fact that it kind of slows stuff down and it has the shortest tick time on it. So theoretically, I would be using that to like clear packs. Maybe not for bosses, but for like stuff that's not going to live very long. Let's go over here and we'll break down the abilities. Again, and then I have more information on each of these pages for the abilities. And again, if you want to take a closer look at this, it's all on icyveins.com. Chaos Bolt unleashes a barrage of fire and necrotic projectiles in an area. Ghost Flame sounds the coolest to me because it's a flamethrower ability. And anything that's a flamethrower ability for me is an instant win in my book. Soul Feast deals necrotic damage and draws fragments of afflicted souls back to you to give you a defense boost. And then Profane Veil sounds to me like an escape, like anti-crowd control kind of thing. You turn into fog and you deal damage over time to nearby enemies. So this one here, this is showing off the passive tree. And there we have Acolyte, and then you have the other two classes along with Warlock for the Acolyte. This is what the base tree looks like. And then we have a couple of examples of what the passive abilities are going to be. So we have Infernal Lash. Whenever you cast a fire skill and enemies within 15 meters have 25 or more stacks of Ignite, you get a bonus effect, strike up to 3 nearby enemies with Flame Whip, and gain Ignite Overload for 12 seconds. So like, if you look at the curses, if you're going to be speccing for fire damage, you'd want to be looking at Penance, since that causes your affected targets to take 20 fire damage whenever they hit another target. One of the other examples, Chains of Ruin, almost the same, except with you're replacing fire damage with necrotic. Same thing though, you're building up stacks, and then you this one is you chain all enemies to the ground for 2 seconds and gain damned overload for 12 seconds. Again, this one to me is the more appealing kind of play style for how I like to play, especially the synergy with this with Torment, because that's going to slow everything down, let you blob everything up, and then I'm just imagining once Chains of Ruin goes off, I have everything locked down, and I can just blast them with whatever AoE spells I have. So I definitely like the possibility for synergies here with the passive tree. And the other really interesting thing I'm excited about looking into more is the skills themselves are also customizable. So on top of having your passive tree, you also have your actual skill customization. And there are a couple of videos on Icy Veins of one of the, I'm assuming it's one of their editors. Oh, Aaron from actionrpg. Is it actionrpg.com or youtube.com at actionrpg, and he has some videos, which I'm not going to sit here and play. Check out his channel, mostly because they're like a couple minutes a piece, and we'd be here forever going over all the videos. But again, like to continue building on that synergy between your curses and your abilities and your passive tree, we'll start with the flamethrower skill because it's the best flamethrower. So Ghost Flame, channeling skill that sprays out a continuous jet of green and red flame, which deals fire and necrotic damage. And the really interesting thing that got my attention is the customizations on this are actually changing. They can change the mechanic of how it works. So some of the customizations has it to where it'll be a ring around you instead of a cone, or you could have it kind of persist in an area after you move. And the other one that was really interesting to me was this Spirit of Dread ability on it. You can move while you're channeling. Higher resource cost, but it does give you that utility. So these are some of the customizations for Ghost Flame. Arteries of Malice. It actually changes the damage type if you take any of these options. So if you want to run a specific curse and a specific skill, and they don't natively have synergy, if you go in and change up your passives on it, you can get that synergy. So Arteries of Malice changes from necrotic and fire to physical, and it changes your damage scaling to scale with physical damage. And the other thing it does is it changes your damned and ignite chances to bleeding. So if you want to run a bleed build, you can get that synergy working too. And the other thing with this specific customization is instead of it draining your mana, it drains your health, which is, depending on how you have your setup run, you can get, whatever varying effects with that. Memorial Flame lets you still get the damage for the skill and have more mobility. So you channel it, as long as you're channeling it for 1.1 seconds. If you stop channeling, it'll persist for a little while. It's 5 talent points to max, and every talent point, it gives you an extra half a second of that free channel. So if you have to dodge an AoE, move out of something, whatever, as long as you have that channel, you can move and not have to worry about losing any potential damage. Fiery Desecration doesn't change, keeps it as the fire necrotic damage, and instead of giving it a direction, it's giving it an area around you. And it does it, but that does increase the channel cost. And Spirit of Dread we talked about earlier. Soul Feast is the AoE defensive skill, and this one sounds really interesting. It deals necrotic damage, and it pulls it says pulling fragments of their souls back to you. So basically, it's pulling a buff. It's pulling a stackable buff to you based on what you hit with it. And what it's going to give you natively is it gives you ward, which is a survival thing. And you can hit up to a maximum of 13 targets baseline. It says it can be augmented to attack more, and then you can also convert it, the damage type, much like you can with Ghost Flame. Some of the examples for this, they give Grand Imprint. It doesn't require targets to be cursed, and it no longer has a target limit, so you can exceed the 13, but now instead of it being an AoE, it's going to be a frontal cone attack. Blood Feast shifts it from necrotic to physical. And what it does, instead of giving you the ward ability, is it actually heals you instead. So if you were to, say, run that Ghost Flame ability that drains health, and you want to run Blood Feast, then you can kind of give yourself a renewal effect there, so you're not constantly just draining your HP. Infernal Hunger gives it a buff when you're not casting it. So according to this, if you go 2 seconds without directly casting Soul Feast, you gain a stacking buff. The next time you cast it, it consumes that buff to give you multiple casts of the ability. And it says additional time per stack, and you can put a maximum of 3 points into it, which gives you 1 bonus maximum stack of hunger per point. And it looks like Infernal Hunger stacks, so every 2 seconds you get a stack up to your maximum. This one I'm not really familiar with because I'm not that familiar with the status effects in the game, but this talent allows you to inflict Withering on hit, which looks like a damage buff for you. So you're going to debuff whatever gets hit with Soul Feast with Withering. That's really hard to say, with Withering. And it increases the damage the enemies are going to take from your whatever curse damage you're applying to them. Moving on, we have Profane Veil. This is your fog transformation skill. So it's another channel ability like Ghost Flame, but allows you to channel and conceal yourself and deal necrotic damage over time to enemies around you. It says here, while you're concealed, you're going to gain dodge, but you will still take damage from dot effects. And you still will be able to move in position. The starting baseline skill for this is you can channel it for 2 seconds. And I believe, does it say if there's a cooldown? I think there was a talent that reduces the cooldown. Yeah. So this talent, Stream of Profanity, casting a curse reduces the cooldown of being able to recast Profane Veil. And then some of the changes to it. This one's really neat. Desecrated Graves. When you enter and exit the Veil, you actually cast a curse for free. You cast this Bone Curse ability. Heretic's Flame is another one that will change your damage type. So if you take Heretic's Flame, instead of doing necrotic damage with Profane Veil, you'll do fire damage. and it does have a chance to set enemies on fire. Lake of Blood will change from necrotic damage to physical damage. And the synergy on Lake of Blood is if you have bleed chance on hit in your build, Profane Veil will deal more damage per every 10% of your global bleed chance on hit. And the other neat thing, I like this talent, is when you enter Profane Veil, if you have any debuffs on yourself, negative ailments, it's a cleanse. So definitely, depending on whatever content you're doing, that could be huge, especially if you're dealing with a lot of negative ailments. Possibly situational, but probably good to have. We have 2 more skills to look at. They don't have any information on this Chthonic Fissure ability. I'm assuming it's like an ultimate skill. So it says tear open a fiery fissure in the ground, releasing spirits that curse and torment your enemies, which sounds really cool. But I didn't see anything in the info about if there's a passive tree for it. So Chaos Bolts is your non-channeled AoE ability. It can apply curses and trigger additional skills. It can also be used in combination with volatile zombies and added ailment effects if you're running minions. And so some of the customizations they're showing off for this. Another affliction, if you hit a cursed enemy with this ability, Chaos Bolt is going to cast another curse for free, and it's going to do that same Bone Curse ability. You can increase the amount of projectiles at an increased mana cost. You can get a stacking buff here. Whenever you cast Chaos Bolts, you gain a stack of destructive intensity up to a maximum. Each stack reduces the target area, but improves your critical strike chance. If you go 2 seconds without gaining a stack, all stacks are lost. So to me, that's saying if you're needing to cast it against a single target, like a boss, the longer you're able to keep casting it, it's going to give you more. Basically, it's going to slowly convert it from an AoE skill into a single target skill, with a little better effectiveness for you for the single target. Exultant Misery. Cast its bolts deal more damage, multiplicative with other modifiers to damned, ignited, bleeding, and frostbitten. So as long as an enemy has an ailment, it's going to do more damage. And I'm assuming that this is saying if an enemy, so it's showing 4% per point, damned, ignited, bleeding, frostbitten. So my assumption on this, the way it's written, is if something has all 4 ailments, with 1 point, you're going to hit them for 16% more damage. I haven't gotten a chance to try this in early access yet, so if I'm wrong about that, let me know. But depending on if you're running multiple status effects, that could really give you a decent damage increase. I do notice that nothing they've shown for Chaos Bolts in these examples have anything that changes its damage type modifier, but there might be other ones in this tree that do, and they're just not showing them to us yet. But those are all the main abilities for the Warlock. And again, like I said, if you want to check out any of those videos from Aaron at Action RPG, it's on icyveins.com. The game is going to be coming out version 1.0 on February 21st. And there are 3 editions of the game you can pick up at lastepoch.com/preorder. You have a standard edition, which right now they're doing a pre-order bonus of this Golden Guppy cosmetic pet. This is the deluxe edition. Full game, the Golden Guppy pre-order bonus, full digital soundtrack, 50 bonus Epoch points, the Chrono Worm cosmetic pet, which is this purple guy, and the Firefly's Refuge cosmetic portal, which actually I think looks pretty neat. And then in addition to the deluxe edition of the game, you have the ultimate edition, which everything that's in the deluxe, in addition to the Temporal Guardian armor set, which is the silver and purple one, Twilight Fox, the adult Chrono Worm, and a secondary portal effect. So this armor set, this pet here, the wolf, and the portal on the right are going to be your extra bonuses for the ultimate edition. But that's going to do it for the Warlock reveal. I'm pretty excited to check this out. I really do like the way they're presenting the customizations for the class, but separating your class passive from the skill customization. I think that just opens up a lot of opportunity for experimentation, and the way that it presents the information is really, I think, really easy to understand, really easy to kind of get a grasp on. This is what I want to do. This is how I want to do it. So, like, if I wanted to say specifically run a poison damage build with acid skin curse, I feel like I'm not going to be having to sit here and like pour over information just to figure out what I want to do to play the game. So I think that the way it's presented in game and the way that they're showing the information is very intuitive. So I don't know if you've noticed in the tooltips, they do have the tags called out, and I'm assuming you're going to be able to mouse over that and get more information. Like it says right there, hold Alt for even more information on the tooltip. So very excited. Definitely looking forward to check this out later in the month. If you guys want to check it out with me, you can always check me out YouTube at Mr. Sibs Plays, and always on twitch.tv/Mr. Sibs.